NBA players you had no idea were related. The NBA has plenty of players who are related in some way to other players in the league. There are half-brothers, cousins, and father and sons in the league, along with nephews and uncles. You've heard about Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter being cousins, and if you followed the NBA long enough, you also know about Stephon Marbury and Sebastian Telfair being cousins. Having multiple players in the league in your family has to be exciting. However, some families keep it quiet, while others let it be known. Here's a list of NBA players you had no idea were related, and stories behind each player's journey in the league. Keep watching to learn about the NBA players you had no idea were related. You won't believe the relationship at the end of this video. Damon Wilkins and Dominique Wilkins, nephew and uncle. If you're an NBA fan, you know Dominique Wilkins, and maybe a little underappreciated on the court. Dominique was probably the next tier when you think about 1980s legends. The first tier would include Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Julius Erving. Does Dominique Wilkins belong? Wilkins never won a championship in his 15-year career. It seems like we rate people off of championship wins and their legacy, but sometimes they're just not in the perfect situation. It doesn't mean that player is bad. Dominique was truly special to watch. He was a high flyer, and had dropped 47 points on the Celtics led by Larry Bird. That doesn't sound average. Wilkins might be the most underrated player in NBA history. He's only talked about because of his dunks, but get this. He currently ranks 10th all-time in scoring, with 26,668 points, and averaged nearly 25 points for his career. Yet, new fans will never throw on a Wilkins jersey. Think about it. That's just 5 points less than Michael Jordan's career scoring average. Wilkins is also only one of 6 players in NBA history to average at least 25 points per game for 10 consecutive seasons. The others on the list are Jerry West, Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Shaquille O'Neal, and Allen Iverson. I'd say all those players are stars. Wilkins was underrated as a scorer, but it seems like even his dunks were taken for granted. He earned the nickname the Human Highlight Film. It's crazy to think that Wilkins only won 2 of the 5 dunk contests that he participated in. He really should have won 4. Aaron Gordon and Wilkins would be friends. What's funny is that Wilkins was nowhere to be found on the NBA's 50 greatest players list. That's crazy. Oh well, Wilkins will always be a 1980s legend. His nephew wasn't anywhere close to a legend though. His nephew, Damon Wilkins, had his best game as a pro against the Hawks, posting a career-high 41 points in the 2007-2008 season while with the Seattle Supersonics. He had played in more than 6 NBA seasons with the Seattle Oklahoma City franchise and the Minnesota Timberwolves, posting an average of 7.2 points and 2.7 rebounds per game. Wilkins had been cut from many teams during the preseason during his time trying to make it into the NBA. Damon played 2 seasons of collegiate ball with North Carolina State before transferring to Georgia in 2002. Just like his uncle Dominique, he didn't get the opportunity to play in the NCAA tournament in his 2 seasons with the Bulldogs. Damon is out of the league currently, but still had some impressive dunks in his back pocket. Damon Stoudamire, Salim Stoudamire, and Terrence Jones, cousins. Salim Stoudamire had one of the best seasons in program history as a senior at Arizona in 2004-2005. Salim was selected 31st to the Atlanta Hawks in the 2005 NBA draft. Just 3 years later, he was struggling to find a team that wanted to sign him. It had been a struggle ever since. After high school, Salim decided to follow his cousin Damon's path and play college basketball at Arizona. Salim's other cousin is Kentucky's sophomore forward Terrence Jones. At Arizona, Salim established himself as one of the nation's best shooters. He was such a pure scorer and could light it up from downtown. At times, Salim was streaky, and when he got going, it was over the opposition. Salim would pull up at 25 feet and score right in the defender's face. The lefty had a mean and awkward stroke that looked incredible once the ball went through the hoop. In college, he was never afraid to take the last shot, and always wanted the ball in his hands in the final seconds. He had the confidence that every great shooter needs. Salim was willing to take any defender one-on-one with the game on the line. He's about perfect when it's down to that last shot. His coach Lute Olson said about Salim, "As a senior, Salim led Arizona to the Elite Eight. In the Sweet 16 game against Oklahoma State, he hit a game-winning fadeaway with less than 2 seconds remaining. Salim was March Madness." Salim was one of the greatest shooters in the history of college basketball. You have to include Salim in the conversation. Salim went 342 for 747 or 45.8% from distance for his career in college. Of course, he broke Arizona's individual 3-point field goal percentage record in his senior year when he shot a ridiculous 50.4%. Kentucky prospect and former Houston Rockets forward Terrence Jones is a relative to Stoudamire's through marriage. Kentucky fans should give at least partial credit to the former Arizona star and NBA player Damon Stoudamire. Stoudamire, a relative through marriage, calls himself a confidant of Jones. After his freshman season, Jones thought about adding himself into the NBA draft and sought Damon's advice. "I think Terrence trusts me. He trusts my opinion," Stoudamire said in a recent telephone conversation. "He knew I had his best interests at heart. I told him, 'Terrence, if you were my son, I would say go back to school.' Jones had plenty of talent, but just needed to hone in on his skill set for another year. It was about maximizing his NBA potential and keeping him prepared. When you go to the pros, you'll be the best Terrence Jones you can be, Stoudamire said. That's what I always preach to these kids. Don't worry about the next guy going pro. Be the best you can be, so when you get there, you'll be the best player you can be. Jones played well for Kentucky as a freshman. He led the Southeastern Conference in rebounding with 8.8 rebounds per game, and double-doubles with 12. He could average 17 points and 9 rebounds again, but it could look a lot better than the 17 of 9 of last year, from the perspective of dominating games and leadership, Stoudamire said. That's what I think Terrence needs to do this year. What Stoudamire thinks means a lot to Jones. I've known Terrence and been around Terrence since he was a baby, Stoudamire said. Jones attended camps run by Stoudamire since the 3rd grade. Jones was a natural right-hander and insisted on shooting and dribbling a basketball left-handed because that's what Damon did. He looks up to and admires Damon, Jones' mother Linda Machia Jones said, and he values his opinion. I'm sure it had a little influence. Just like Jones, Damon considered turning pro after his sophomore season for Arizona, then again after his junior season. I hadn't accomplished everything I felt I wanted to accomplish in college, said Stoudamire, who wound up playing all 4 seasons at Arizona. Danny Green and Gerald Green, cousins. Gerald Green's second cousin is Los Angeles Lakers shooting guard Danny Green. He also has a younger brother Garland, who is also a professional basketball player for Hapoel Tel Aviv in Israel. He played college ball at TCU before going to play in Europe. Gerald Green played basketball without his right ring finger. Gerald has made his reputation as an NBA journeyman, a dead-eye shooter, and a dunk artist, even though he lost most of his 4th finger on his shooting hand in a childhood accident. Green, who is best known for his time with the Houston Rockets, kept his hand hidden out of habit for years. He would cover it up with his left hand or his jersey, but longer into his career, Gerald decided to be more open about his finger missing. When Green was 11 years old, he lost most of the finger when he and his younger brother were holding a jumping contest at home one day. They were testing their vertical leap against a door. Green recalls that he was wearing one of his mother's rings. According to Green, the ring caught on a nail on the top of the doorway, and his finger was nearly ripped off. Doctors had to amputate his ring finger. I was teasing my brother, "You can't jump this high," Green said. "I went up and I yanked my finger off. It was still intact, but they couldn't save it during surgery." Green said he became insecure and belligerent after losing his finger. "The girls didn't want me anymore and the boys were mean," he said. "I was embarrassed about my hand and I was sad. It was like I lost a family member. I got in a lot of fights. I went into a shell. I had been outgoing, easygoing, laughed a lot. But an injury like that as a kid, it does something to you." Green wore a large bandage during what was an 18-month healing process that required 2 separate surgeries. In the beginning, he had difficulty writing, and his mother had to help him with homework. "The teachers told me I wouldn't amount to anything because I was a bad kid," he said, "but I knew I could still hoop. I kept believing I could be in the NBA. I didn't think I was going to school to be a doctor. No offense, but that wasn't me. When basketball is all you got, you work hard at it." Green was able to adapt his ball handling and shooting skills. "At first I had to get a feel for the ball again, and when I grab a ball now, I still have more feeling for it with my left hand," he said. "But I shoot with my thumb, index, and middle finger. Not a day goes by that I don't think about my finger, but I really don't miss it." Green was the 18th overall pick by the Boston Celtics in the 2005 NBA draft. He chose to enter the league straight out of Houston Gulf Shores Academy and didn't go to college. Green actually won the NBA Slam Dunk Contest in 2007 and was runner-up in 2008 when he showed off the legendary The Birthday Cake Dunk, where he blew out a candle on a cupcake set on the back of the rim. He also did an alley-oop 2-handed windmill and a between-the-legs 2-handed slam in bare feet. His former Heat coach Erik Spoelstra loved having his leadership on the team. "I love his commitment to the work," Spoelstra said. "He's willing to sacrifice some individual scoring to play for something different, something bigger, and that says a lot about him." Green said he's finally willing to share more of his story. "Used to be when I was asked about it, I would walk away because I just wasn't comfortable talking about it," he said. "Now I realize if I can touch one kid, my story has done its job." Just like his finger, the Greens have kept their relationship a secret as well. It's not that they don't want people to know. The information is out there. It's just that they don't talk about it. That's the story of Gerald Green's life, the well-kept secret. Tobias Harris and Channing Frye, cousins. Channing Frye is Tobias Harris's first cousin. Frye's grandfather, John Molzak, was a member of the Tuskegee Airmen. Tobias and Channing haven't kept this a secret. NBA cousins Channing Frye and Tobias Harris actually played on the same team during a point in their careers. Both Frye and Harris were born in New York 9 years apart. They had previously played together for the Orlando Magic from 2014 to 2016. However, both were traded away midway through the 2015-2016 season. In a video from Clutch Points, Harris spoke about reuniting with his cousin on separate sides of the court. "It's cool, he's my cousin, first cousin. We're like staying at the same place right now, same hotel. So we had lunch the other day, just catching up with him. He just had his appendix taken out, so he's been resting after that. You know, we're back together a little bit. It's always good to have some extra family. Harris was smiling the entire time when he was speaking about their family reunion. Harris was then asked if they both caught up with one another when they were both in town. Of course, yeah, that's family. Most of the time we were talking about basketball, talking about different things, family, stuff like that. But he knows the game well. When I first got traded here, he called me and was basically telling me how he feels, like this situation could be really different. Fry and Harris played together for the Magic and then played for rival teams in Los Angeles, but that didn't stop each other from living together and enjoying each other's company. Harris is currently one of the stars on the Philadelphia 76ers, while Channing Frye is retired. Frye has won championship thanks to LeBron James and Kyrie Irving in 2016. Tobias will now be working for a championship on his own, and the 76ers have the pieces in place to compete for one in the near future. Family dinners would be a lot more fun with a second championship ring at the table.